Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Listeners, here we go again. It's game time, baby. We back. Life's Essential Ingredients. We are season 3, episode number 35, and we have Dr. Vic Manzo Jr. coming from Knoxville, Tennessee. But if you're a new listener to our show, first of all, we just want to say thanks and let you know that you're one of, I don't know how many, but we are listened to in 44 countries, over 650 cities. And this show is part of a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is called C4 Leaders. And we're the only nonprofit to utilize, get ready for this, the pizza making process. They heard it, Pasho, to create space for our companions to be seen, heard, and loved. We also write children's books, obviously host this podcast, and use the most amazing handmade, hand-tossed sourdough pizza to bring out the best in each other. So if you want to check out what we do in that space, just go to pizzadays, DAYS.org. Would love your support. But let's get into the show here. And like I said, we're season 3, episode 35, Dr. Vic Manzo Jr. coming from Knoxville, Tennessee. And first, where you can find him, he is all over the place, but I'm just going to give you 2 so I don't overwhelm you. First one, empoweryourreality.com. empoweryourreality.com. And then Dr. Vic also has an amazing podcast. He's been doing this a lot longer than we have, and it's very cool. I listened to a few episodes, so I highly suggest you check into that. And it's The Mindful Experiment is the name of his podcast, and you can check that out. So about Dr. Vic, he hit his financial peak in the first 5 years of his business, but it came with a huge price tag. He was burnt out, exhausted, and shockingly unfulfilled. Dr. Vic knew he had to change his ways, and months of studying, researching, experiencing, he decided to follow an approach that related to spiritual truths, ancient wisdom, universal laws, quantum physics, and neuroscience, focusing on mindset, limiting beliefs, subconscious mind, reframing one's mindset, and much more. People in his circle noticed something different and wanted to know how he had transformed his life. Soon, Dr. Vic was sharing his wisdom with others and was in the process of establishing his coaching and life philosophies. Dr. Vic currently invests his time as an international business success coach, certified pediatric chiropractor, 3 times author, podcaster, and speaker. Dr. Vic, congrats on an amazing life journey, for finding and sharing your many gifts, and for being our guest on Life's Essential Ingredients. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And listeners, again, if you're new, we're season 3. I don't know how many episodes we have, Pasho, but we're over probably 140, 150. And we always start with a thought of the day, which is I've used this in teaching and my coaching, and it's always just kind of grounds us. And in checking you out, Dr. Vic, Mike and I thought this was a good one, but I think it's a little bit risky. So we're gonna have to see, and we're 100%. But you can say, hey, Jeff, you're smoking some stuff, man. That does not resonate with me at all. But here it is, and it's from a movie, Benjamin Button. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that movie or not. Okay, so this is going to be interesting.
That's going to be interesting.
What it's worth. It's never too late, or in my case, too early to be whoever you want to be. There's no time limit. Stop whenever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make the best or the worst of it. Why would I pick that one for you?
I like that. There's a lot that quote relates a lot in many different things that I talk about. And even a journey that I went through from having, moving from Chicago to Knoxville. I mean, I had a successful practice there. I don't know if you guys know this about me, we were trying to sell the office, but due to the climate of COVID in Illinois, practices just weren't selling. If it was in like Texas or Tennessee or Florida, they just couldn't keep the practices on the market. And my wife and I made a choice to either we're going to walk away from the practice and just close it then, and start our family, or we stay in Chicago and wait till this thing out and see what happens. And we already held our family back a while. So I live that quote in the sense where I took a jump out of chiropractic and full time into coaching. And I was like, man, I'm doing this at 38. This is interesting, but I was like, you know what? I have this thing figured out. I know my philosophies. I've been having success with this, and I'm going to go. But here's the thing. I'm trying to tie it all back together. I'm actually getting back into the profession next month. I'm going to start practicing again, starting everything all over from scratch. May want to do that, but it's never in life. It's just, I love that quote because it's just never too late to do anything. It just, we let the constructs of life, the programming, our subconscious mind, and different things of you should be at this level by this age or this age. And I always just say, I tell people sometimes, just go look at some of the most successful people in entertainment or just in business who didn't get their first break. Like Steve Harvey didn't get his first break till 38. And I think Morgan Freeman was 56 or something, in her 40s or 50s. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's never too late to do anything. Only your imagination will put limits on it, or your mind will put limits on it.
Man, it's going to be a good show, listeners, and I highly suggest you take out a pen and paper. And Dr. Vic, don't get it twisted that I have my head down all the time. And Mike and I started this show just to help one person, and that one person has always been him or me. And so I'm always going to be taking so many notes, and I've learned and grown so much from our guests. But I did not know that part of your story. And it's crazy how these thought of the days, I mean, that's like, it's just like spot on. And then I just love this quote, too, because I think we all just go through struggles. We're always trying to figure out and trying to navigate this life. And as soon as you think that you've figured it out, you realize I haven't figured out anything. But I love that, and I do a little bit of speaking too. And especially when I'm with young people, and I'm 54 now, I tell them I'm 54 years old and I still have no clue of exactly who I want to be and where I'm going. And I kind of run to that because that allows you this freedom to just play free, and to just be in a good way vulnerable, which allows you then to be open to be like, all right, life, let's go, come at me. And I just want to learn and grow and process and make mistakes. And so, yeah, this is going to be a really fun episode. I can tell right from the jump. But let's get into, I've gone away from the last few episodes and it's a broad question. You can take it any which way you want, but what was life like growing up?
I grew up in a small Italian community in the Chicago suburbs and called Merle's Park. And so grew up with a tight knit family. I have a big Italian family, but, so when people say, who's all your friends? I'm like, I don't have friends. I mean, I have friends, but the people I was always with was my family. And so there was a lot of principles and rules and, things that I learned from that was really great, that served me well later in my life because family's first. I take care of my family over anything else and all those kind of things. But, I had a dad that was a perfectionist, so that's a good and bad thing in a lot of ways. So if you get like a 99.9%, he's going to focus on that 0.1% that you didn't get. And that's good and bad. Like I said, there's good to that because it makes me stay on my A game and want to be the best I can be. And always checking to see how can I improve, which is always good in anything. In sports, it worked out really well for me, and in business, it has helped out a lot. But then there's other sides of that too. But I grew up very blue collar. My parents had multiple jobs. I think it was like 4 or 5 different jobs in total, just to make ends meet. And it was one of those things where I got to enjoy things here and there, but mainly I was helping out my dad. A lot of the times he laid carpet as a side business, and so he needed his little helper, which it was just basically to pick up things, bring things in. So as I got older, I was called Muscles. That was my nickname, and just lift the heavy stuff and bring it in. And that was kind of the upbringing that I had. But a lot of things that you don't find in today. I kind of call it like I was raised old school in many ways. And so like my generation above me, I get along with them very well. They stick to principles, they hold their word for the most part, at least, and things that we don't see as much in today's world. And so as much as it was annoying growing up sometimes, like, Dad, you can change it. It's fine. You don't have to. And he'd be like, this is what we said we're going to do, and we're going to do it. And I'd be like, oh, come on. But now I'm that way. Like, nope, this is my word. Regardless what I said, this is whatever is happening. This is what I said I was going to do, and I got to stick to that.
Yeah, I love just the word old school. And yeah, I think Mike and I are a little bit older. So all that you just shared so resonates. And then Pasha, jump in there. I'm sure you have some parallels in your culture. You know, Mike's from Croatia. Yeah, I imagine he has some good stories to share about his mom and dad and how he was raised.
Yeah, absolutely the same thing. That was us growing up. My dad was a carpenter, and when he was doing a project or something, it's like, come on, you're coming here, you're handing me tools and all that. Wouldn't let me touch anything, so I'm terrible at that stuff. But yeah, it was the same thing. You get that, and then it was at the point where you should just know what I'm thinking. And so, yeah, it was interesting. I can relate to growing up the same way.
You know, it's kind of funny too, because let's see, I started working with my dad around about 6 years old. And I think the last job I did with him, I think I was 21. It was right before chiropractic school, so around 22. And asked me if I know how to lay carpet. I don't. One of the things he always said, which I really appreciate, because I told him, I was like, teach me, I can help you. He's like, I don't want you to learn any of this stuff. And I said, come on. He goes, I'm going to teach you hard work. I'm going to teach you what hard work is, 12, 14, 16 hours grinding, doing all this stuff. He goes, I'm going to teach you hard work because I don't want you to do this stuff. I want you to stay as far away from it as you can. And so that's why we would do all weekends. You know, you get that first date with the girl who you're looking forward to. All this work to get the one girl that everybody wants, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, He comes home Friday after work, and he's like, "Hey, we got to lay carpet. Come with me." No, I got a date Friday. No, I can't. This teenager, and he's like, "Nope, you got to come." And I'm like, "Oh man, that just ruined everything now." And it would. So, but yeah, no, don't know how to lay carpet I got an idea of it, but. Yeah, he never wanted to teach me. So I understand the whole tool thing.
Yeah, my dad's the same way even to this day. My dad is 85. I'm 54. And if he comes over to help with the project, I'm doing it and I'm not doing it right, obviously. And he'll just grab tools out of my hand. It's like, step aside, kid.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So I spend a little time. I have two daughters, and my oldest daughter played basketball out in Bourbonnais. You ever heard of Bourbonnais down the 57 if you're driving towards Champaign?
My in-laws live about 25 minutes from there.
Okay. So I had the good fortune of coaching her last year and got to spend some time in the Midwest, which I loved. But I want to talk to you about some pizza, man. You're Italian. We can at least visit this because you probably have more expertise than Mike and I do about making pizza. But which do you even like the deep dish, or is that just like a kind of a touristy thing? And are we talking about Gino's, Giordano, Malnati's? Who do you like?
I love it. You know, I need to research this now because it's so many times people ask me, especially since I've been in Tennessee, oh, you like the deep dish pizza? I'm like, who said Chicago's known for deep dish? I think it's just did we come up with it? I have no idea. I need to look this up because if Chicagoans would be like, we eat normal pizza. A lot of Chicagoans don't normally choose deep dish for the most part. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to choose those three, you got, Gino's East, Malou, Manati's, and Giordano's. I think it's because I know Giordano's a little bit better. That was more around me. So I guess that was it. But we made our own. I rarely went to go get pizza. Being Italian, it's like one of the things, even though there's really good pizza places, it's like we just made ours every Saturday. My grandfather had a restaurant in the town that we lived in, Morris Park, and it was really great. He retired at like 45. He made a killing off it. But he made a pizza that was probably about 1.5 inches thick in dough. And so we're from Naples. So we were doing a lot of pizza bianca, which means just white pizza. So there's no sauce. There's no, it's just cheese and you put your stuff on there, and he loved his anchovies, and that was it. Now you would think a dough that's about 1.5 inches thick would be very heavy. Like you eat that's a lot of dough. I don't know what he did. I wish he could have taught me this because he had it perfected every time. The crust was just perfectly, just hard enough. And then the dough was light and airy. You eat, 4 or 5 slices. We cut it, small squares. Unbelievable. But yeah, pizza making. I love how you guys do sourdough. That's what I'm all about. And so I make my own sourdough pizzas. My parents are coming into town for Thanksgiving. We're going to be actually doing wood fire sourdough pizzas this weekend. But But yeah, I mean, Italian food is just, that's our culture, is all about eating and having fun and finding ways to eat. And pizza is one of those things that every Saturday my grandfather would be having pizza. No matter what was going on in life, he would make sure every Saturday pizza door was open. Whoever wanted to come over and have some, you were more than welcome. He always had enough, and with his homemade wine, and they made their their super sod and all their different meats. It was just a feast every weekend. It was fun.
And let's just jump to that, because you're already kind of speaking on it. And with it being Thanksgiving, and for me, you just think family, and obviously being grateful for everything in life. But what's the importance now that I know you have a daughter, I believe, but how is and why is family so important to you?
It's everything. I mean, you think about it this way: you can do everything in the world. I heard this from a billionaire. I wish his name was. He's not well known because he created what everybody uses. It's something with the internet and so forth. He created that software and technology. But he said one of the thing about family is that he goes, I can create everything. I can create so many different things, but my legacy is my family. It's what I leave with them. And I really believe that now. I've been a father for 16 months. I have an awesome daughter who's just opening my heart, and just so many things in my life. And I'm very retrospective. I do a lot of introspective work. So I'm always looking at things and just seeing how can I grow, because my whole purpose for me as a person is to live a life that's fully fulfilled. And I try to, as much, I'm not perfect, but I'm always working on how can I be a better whole person, so that I don't pass a lot of the garbage of myself that I haven't, down to my kids. But family is everything. It's the root structure of who we are. And the biggest thing for me is just the legacy. I can raise, right now I just have a daughter, but working with her and help build her up to give her something that I never had. You hear parents say this all the time, but it's always the material side you'll see. And I'm not saying it's, at least for me in my experience, I always heard it from a material side. I want to have my kids have a beautiful this and have that and get anything they want. For me, it's more, I want to give my children what I never had, and give them what I also, what I'm working on all at the same time, so they can live to be more fulfilled humans. And then that creates a cascade effect or a ripple effect. And then they become an influence of that. And then they pass that down to their children. And we start to change and create more whole, fulfilled humans in society. And that's kind of the big purpose. I'm sharing a little bit of my vision for my family, but coming back to the question, it's just, family is just everything for me. Without that, it's my heart, it's my soul, it's my rock, it's the people that I grind in and out a day with, and it's just everything.
Love it. But you said so many key things, but let's explore a little bit. And I know this is, some of your expertise, but feeling more fulfilled. And a lot of times we don't have that fulfillment, and we seek it in other ways that probably aren't the best for us, and thinking that we're going to get that fulfillment from other things. And I'll just use technology or whatever it is, shopping, whatever, other relationships, porn, it doesn't matter. But, I think that's just a huge challenge for us. How do you help your clients, the people that you coach that are maybe in that space and have the blinders on, that they're not fulfilled and they're using other things to help fulfill them, and then bringing that awareness to them to help them see it from a different perspective, and then create that change in their life. And then also more so, and you're saying it, but not pass that on, whatever that is, on to your children, so they don't have that same struggle, which is what we do. So, and go ahead. I think
that's a great question. Great question. I love the question. The simplest thing, and this is what children teach us. So I'm going to use my own daughter as an example. Children, what they teach us is to go back to being childlike. Our natural state. Because if you look at what a child is, and this is why I tell my clients all the time, my goal is to get you back to a 3-4-year-old. And I don't mean that from an emotional maturity standpoint or things like that. But if you look at a 3-4-year-old at the peak where their brain is developing at that state, they're at the highest peak of imagination, curiosity, and they follow what they love. That is the recipe for fulfillment. What happens in life is we allow the matrix. I call it the matrix. You can call it human collective consciousness, but there is this thing that we as all humans are giving to this that creates constructs to say this is how life is. And every continent, every culture, all does things a little different. But it's saying this is how life is. I was raised that you work hard over a period of time, this and that. Eventually, you'll make success for yourself and so forth. And where I grew up, because we didn't have a lot of money, we valued money as like, when you have money, then you have everything. And so that was a construct that was passed down to me that I downloaded. And I know for sure I'm not going to do that with my daughter. But it's one of the things that when it comes to fulfillment, it's realizing it's an unraveling process. It's not like something as simple as just, I could just say 1, 2, here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could do that, right? If life was just that easy, no, life doesn't come with a book or a pamphlet or a manual. But what we can do though is we can use feelings. This is what I teach my clients. I help them tap in to become aware of what do they truly feel. And I tell them, you got to be raw and real with me, or else we're not going to make change. Because if you can't be raw, you got to be raw and real. What are you feeling? How are you at? All my clients have to check in with me, and I let them know, where's your mind at today? Where's the mindset for the week? What's where are we at with things? Because it gives me insight. And so when you are connected to your path, aligning to something that's important to you, to your values, or you want to call it your soul, or whatever that terminology works for you. When you are in alignment with that, you're going to have joy, bliss. You're going to be feeling centered, grounded, and more of that like kid-like excitement. When we're away from that or not in that alignment, then all of a sudden you're going to get opposite: frustration, anger, fear, worry, whatever the lower vibrations are. I mean, it's just an unpleasant feeling. So you have this beautiful system guided within us that we don't trust and don't really tap into. We're not taught this. We're actually taught to not trust it and move away from it and lead with the mind. But it's one of those things where when you're feeling unpleasant in whatever that is that you're doing, like for me, I hit my financial peak, right? Here's a goal in my life growing up, finances. When you get to this point, when the money I was making, I was like, I can't believe that all this is like, I didn't have to worry about anything. I can go anywhere with my wife, do all the things we wanted to do. But one day I remember it was a weekend and I looked at her and I looked at how much we made, how many records we were breaking. I mean, in 2 years, we tripled our sales, we 6x'd our profits. I was looking and going, this is awesome. And I was like, I can go for more, but I just was like, I'm already feeling empty. I was like, there's just, some people say business advice, get addicted to money and that's where your success will come. And I'm like, yeah, you're just filling a void. It's addiction like anything else. And I said, we can go down that path, or let's really look at what matters to us. I had to look at it for myself. My wife worked in the business with me. So I was like, I need to really look and see what really matters. And I think we're gonna have to make a change. And we made a change. It wasn't something simple. I took a 40% hit financially to change my practice around to reflect more of what it is I wanted to bring to the society, or at least into my community. And we did that. And when you follow your heart, and again, these are some things you always hear, right? Follow your heart. But what really matters is every time I was like, this is what I would love to do. And I was getting excited. I love working with kids. And working with kids brings a lot of joy to me, but I know that I'm correcting something into the future. I'm helping the future more than I ever could. Because if I worked with adults, unfortunately, I can't change things. With kids, I can't change things to a certain point, but I can educate to where if mom wants to have another child, we can work on that and change. So the kids are not, I think it's in 2026, they're going to have 80% of chronic illnesses. It's just crazy. Or 2025, I think the stat is. So those are things that for me is very important. And so it comes back to when you look at the word fulfillment, yes, it's really looking at what's important, what are your values, and what's something that, I tell clients this all the time, what is something you would do for free that you get so much joy out of, that you get excitement out of, that you look forward to doing? And that's usually going to open a door for you in some way to find that path.
Whew, I love it. I love it. So much to say. And I'll just share one little thing that people get so riled up with me all the time. Our nonprofit, is exactly that, a nonprofit. And so everything that we do, and from being Italian and walking into that space, it's a process and it's some work to make pizza and clean everything up. But we're all volunteers. And so we charge money for what we do because it takes a lot of money. We have a pizza truck, it's pretty expensive to maintain that thing. And it's a diesel and it's dually. But yeah, we do it just for the fulfillment, just for that joy. And I wouldn't say I take a lot of heat, but taking out any financial component that's part of that equation for me allows me just to be at peace and just know that it's just my heart is open to be able to give and to receive in entering that space. And I don't know why. Maybe it's something you can help me off the air, but I don't want a penny for all the hard work that we're doing. I just you've been talking about legacy. I just want to create one moment in time where people can feel that love, just a genuine love coming from C4 leaders and the work we do. But I don't want to get all wrapped up in that. I start getting a little bit excited, a little bit fired up. But the show is called Life's Essential Ingredients, and you've already shared a bunch, so this might be a little bit tricky, but I want to try and go personal on you. You do a lot of things. You're getting back to being a chiropractor and helping young people kind of live in a better way in so many different ways. But my question is, how do you do that, and how do you focus on you? What are those essential ingredients that people don't see, the work that you're doing behind closed doors that allows you to enter the space to be your best self, or to see yourself not being your best self and have the self-awareness and to be able to say, okay, yeah, things didn't go as I wanted today, but I'm going to do better tomorrow. What are some of those ingredients that the listeners can take from your wisdom and your experience and just maybe take a look at their life?
Love it. Yeah. I mean, there's so much that I do in many different ways, but I always call it like sharpening the knives. We always got to sharpen the knives when it comes to everything we deal with. So when you understand that, you can talk, like Tony Robbins talks about state, right? State of being in the mind. You got your energy. Now, when I say energy, I don't mean that as like, I had caffeine, I feel great. There's a vibratory pulsating frequency that you emit. This has been proven in quantum physics. We know it as something called the torus field, or in the science world, they call it the biophotonic field. In the spiritual world, they call it an aura field. I can go on, but you get the point. Every discipline or study has their own name for it. And we pulse this out, and it's your vibe of where you are. This is why you can be around someone and be like, man, I like their feeling. I don't even know anything about them, and I like them. But what I do is my focus is always going to be mind and energy. So where am I at? So what centers me? That's the key point. I do a ton of different things to make sure that I'm always showing up my best version. The first two biggest things I always do is breath work and meditation. I do that on a daily basis. It's either in the morning, midday, or in the evening. Just depends what my schedule is. My daughter lets us sleep really well, then I'll do it first thing in the morning. If it's been a rough night, like last night was, I'm going to do that later in the evening. But I make sure I do that to just get my mind right. But it's also neurologically, I'm helping my brain be able to stay more focused, not go into impulse, and all these different things. Those are things I do. I have a sauna and a cold plunge that I do a ton of that with. I mean, so I have 40 degrees ready to go, hop in. I do about 4 to 5 minutes. It's challenging me. It's putting me in a stressful situation. Cold water is so great, especially when I could come out of the sauna very hot, and it just stresses my body more. It's one of those things that it does put the body in a negative stress, but because of that, it stimulates a lot of healing, all these other things that come with it. But it helps me stay centered and focused. I do a lot of introspective work. So every night I'm grateful for anything that showed up in the day. If my day was beautiful, I'm very grateful. If my day was like, let's say, quote unquote, horrible, or just a day that was just, man, this was character building. This was I do a lot of gratitude and appreciation to it. And it's one of the things that I'm always trying to, and this is something new that I started doing too now, is I treat everything in the day as much as I can like it's my last time ever experiencing it. I hit 40, and it didn't really matter too much, but it was just with my daughter. It's just like you see your kids and you go, there's a good chance that you're going to be saying bye to them. And I want to get to this certain level of like gratitude and just a level of present moment and consciousness. And so I started to, like, every time, like, If I'm with my dog, this is the last time I'm gonna be able to pet him. If I'm with my wife, this may be the last time I do this. And some people say that's kind of like dark. It's like, no, it keeps me present. I have to stay that way because it keeps me present. And so I just started doing this like a few weeks ago, and I've been loving it. It's just like, it has taken my whole experience in life to a whole new level. So I practice a lot of those things. These are things I'll do on a daily basis. There are other things I do. My wife and I have wonderful conversations about just our life in general. She is my other half. We are complete. Our life is one. And so, if I'm going through something, she'll ask, how's your day? How's things going today? I'm like, how are you? How's it with the baby? How's things going on there? And we have to at least check in every day. At least 10 minutes, even if I only saw her for 10 minutes or whatever, we check in. If I can't see her just because I'd be not home all day, then I'm going to, we get on the phone to make sure that happens. And we stay very committed to that, because that's my lifeline with her, and my lifeline in a sense for myself. She is my rock. And so I want to make sure we are on the same page. So these are some of the principles I do personally, to one, keep my mind right. Second, to keep my vibe right. And these are all the things that helps me on those levels.
Great tips, and a lot of work. I can tell that you're dedicated to it, and definitely your dad is coming through, again, whether we realize it or not. That's what's, you talk about doing the work from the parts of your childhood that maybe you want to fix, and how important that is to be able to fix that so you can, not pass it on. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but to your children. But then also on the flip side of taking the amazing characteristics that we've received from our parents, and those in our life, and the hard work and just the work ethic that your dad gave you, to allow you to put all the work that you're doing into yourself, and then or all the people that you get to serve. And obviously you've written 3 books. So you're definitely a hard worker, and congrats on that. First of all, because I think there's a lot of people that would love to write a book, but just for one reason or another, just don't get into that space to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to knock this thing out. Let's get in, and you can, share whatever you want. It's listeners. The books are Rediscover Your Greatness, I think was your first one, and then A Walk in the Dark, and then Decoding the Matrix. And you can get these books. He's got a great website. First of all, again, make sure we check that one out, empoweryourreality.com. But the books are on Amazon and where else you can get a book. But highlight, something that the listener might want to check out from any of those books.
Yeah, all 3 of them are written, wishing I had some of that information early on in my life. But it was something that, what can I write that, what I love about writing about books. So anyone who's ever on the fence about writing a book, I'll just share this with you, because this is what makes me want to continue to write books, is when you read a book from somebody, you're catching them in a time capsule at a certain time in their life, in a certain state of their evolution, of where they were and what they thought about XYZ topic. And I think that's great. And I'm like, you can catch me. Because when I wrote my first book, Rediscover Your Greatness, a year later, I was like, I would change half that book up. I don't talk like that anymore. I would do this. I would do that. And the same thing happened for book number 2. The same thing happened for book number 3. And I'm like, this is cool. They're catching me in that moment of where I was in my evolutionary process. And so, but Rediscover Your Greatness is it's a book that is designed, basically the rules to life. I share a lot of universal laws in there, and kind of like bringing quantum physics to the level of things, but in a very simple way, like the law of focus, which I don't even know if the law of focus exists. I just call it that because it states whatever you focus on is going to expand and grow. And so, whatever you're putting your energy to is going to do that. So it teaches things like that, how your words are the fabric to your reality. You got to be very careful on the words you choose. That's why when we put words together or letters together, we call it a spelling, and it's a spell that you cast into the world that you are creating. And you can take this even to biblical scripture, where God created the world with the word, and all these other things, and other religions will talk about how powerful the word is, and so forth. So that was that book when it came to there. But the second one was, I really wanted to try and attempt, I like to go big or go home, try to end mental suffering. And I knew that if I can shift someone's perspective and see things in a different way, that life isn't out to get you, that it's all part of a greater design. So the struggles that we face are all there for you. They're there for a reason. Everything's there for their greater good. And sometimes people go, I don't know about that, but you can look back at your life and you can see that, wow, this happened because of this, or this happened because of that. And when you start looking for that, you'll see it. Just like if you look for the bad, it's going to be there too. But you have a choice to look at one or the other. And that whole book is really to help inspire and share techniques and tips like breathwork and meditation, how to recenter your energy so that you can access the higher centers of your brain. So that way, then you're not getting stuck into the lower vibration, seeing things from a darker place. You can go up higher, and it allows you to potentially see things and go, you know what, maybe this, you start to future plan a little bit. You can start to put things together and say, well, maybe this is working out because of this, or maybe that's happening because of that. And it starts to shift. And if I can get people just to shift their perspective, shift that awareness, that's 50 to 90% of the problem solved. And then the last book, The Matrix, is really, again, like I was sharing a little earlier, it's about the constructs of how we're conditioned, how our mind is conditioned, the subconscious mind, and how we can create our own intention to create our own path. And I share things like, like let's say, doom and gloom. A lot of you've been hearing that for like the last couple of years. I know some people say like the dollar is going to collapse. This is going to happen. Look at the wars we got going on and all this. Like you can get sucked into those things, or you can choose your own path in your own way. And so I share like examples like how the billionaires during the pandemic and how small business was getting killed. They grew I think it was like 56%. And some people I had some kickback. Some people are like, yeah, well, they're the billionaires. They have control of the markets and blah, 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 blah. It's okay. Forget that then. I said, let's go look at where's the highest percentage of millionaires ever created in the United States. And when you look at the highest percentage of millionaires ever created, it was during the Great Depression. And so I'm like, what did those millionaires do that was different compared to everybody else who was struggling in that experience? And again, it's stepping out, setting your own path, and creating that for yourself, or whatever that may be.
Pasho, putting in work. You spoke to it, but I want to ask it, and hopefully it's not too repetitive, but I think so many times there's just so much out there, especially now with access to just so much knowledge. And this is a broad question, but I would like you to focus it on just kind of self-work. How do you help your clients make decisions? And I'll ask a part B, maybe even part A, and to identify their values, which is nice. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I don't know if that's clear enough for you or not. It's not a great question, but.
No, that works. Yeah. So like the decision part. So let's say somebody wants to create something new or something. Oh, I heard this guy talking about this. I want to do this. Okay. Let's take a step back. Let's go back to the ground floor. All right. So what's your why? What's your vision? All right. This is what it is. Okay, great. So now that's your why and that's your vision. So does what you're doing align with that? Does it help you get to express or experience more of your vision or not? And that's and if they say yes, I'll say, then explain to me how that does. And this is literally, I'll walk every time. My clients be like, hey, doc, I want to do this. Okay. I'm going to ask if they've been with me for a while. They're like, I know you're going to say, what's my vision and why am I why and why I'm doing it. I'm like, because you have to have aligned action. Yeah. Everything has to be in alignment or you're going to have resistance. If you have resistance, you're going to have to, then what happens is we put force energy, or Newtonian physics comes in where we're using force. And we're like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to grind. I got to hustle. All the metrics that business, self-help, personal development, motivational speaking, at least for the last 16 years that I've been in the space, still continue to say the same thing. And it's one of those things where when you do that, that's where burnout comes. I mean, heck, 55% of chiropractors are burned out. Over 60% of entrepreneurs are burned out. That 60% for entrepreneurs comes from Forbes. So it's like when you start to look like, why are so many people burned out? Well, because we're using a model that's outdated and it's force instead of coming into your power. So when you come from aligned actions, it's a game changer. So that's what I always say to follow and do in that process. Now, to discover your values is going to come back to a feeling thing. So sometimes I'll work with clients and I'll just give them like, here's 50 words of values. See which ones resonate with you. Pick 10. And then they'll choose 10. I'll say, okay, let's pick 3 or 4. right? And then I'll say, okay, after they get to 3 or 4, I'll say, okay, now write out why that's important to you. Because what we value in life, here's a little nugget for you guys, is that what we value in life is what we didn't have. And I'll say that one more time. What you value in life is what you didn't have. So like I said before, I grew up blue collar, financial paycheck to paycheck, struggles, this and that, X, Y, Z. And so what do we value? We valued money. But we didn't value money in a good relationship. We valued in saying, well, we're not worthy of it. Would love to have that. It's something we never experienced before. It's not us. So we already created this massive, thick wall of resistance. And that's why, for me, I had to break a lot of those limiting beliefs in order to get to those levels that I've experienced in my life. But then there's, when we look at that, that's, you write those kind of things out. Another way to discover your values is look what's around you and what you put your energy to. You always make time for what you value. So that's another easier way to do it. So I do it in 2 different ways. And just so that see how they align. I always like data points in multiple ways so I can see, okay, that aligned, that's the same. We're good. We got some congruency here. But what happens is you can just look at what you pay a lot of attention to. What do you focus on? For me, it's very easy. It's all the mind, it's all health related stuff, and it's all child psychology stuff because I have a kiddo. And the child psychology also works with my coaching. So I can work in both spheres with that. And I look at it, like I'll tell my wife, she'll be like, you've been looking at reels for like 10 minutes. You normally don't look at reels. I'm like, honey, I've been getting some good ones. If the algorithm's finally working for me, I'm getting some good material to where I'll take it, write some stuff down. And I'm like, okay, I got to study, or here's a book now I found that I want to go look into. But it's always where you're going to spend your time. And that's where your values are. And you have to really be honest with yourself. Am I spending my time with the things I value most? Like, for example, I said family is number one to me, right? Well, so like when I come home and if I have to go to the office and I come back, I do some coverage work. But when I open up my office next month, I know that when I come home, my phone gets put away. It's put away. That's it. That phone, it will not be in my hands until my wife and my daughter are back to bed. I'll check on things really quick for clients and whatever I need to do. It takes less than 5 minutes. And then I put my phone back away and I'm done for the evening. But there is no interruption with my family time at all. And so that's kind of one of the things. And then the weekends is kind of very similar. I don't have my phone with me on the weekends as much. I want no distractions away from my family. My family's who I spend all the time with as much as I possibly can. So when you look at, like, if I totaled up if we have to subtract sleep, because I do value sleep, so that's 7-8 hours a night. But if you take that out of the equation and you look at my total hours in a week, it's mostly with my family. And so this is another way you can look at things and how you can look at what you value, because again, you always will find time for what you value.
Mm. Man, good stuff. And you mentioned books, running across some information and say, all right, well, I want to learn more about that. Any books that you would recommend, or just books that you read that like really jumped out to you that a listener might get value from?
Oh, there's so many. I'm going to share this one that was a game changer for me. I don't know if it may be for them, but it has them see life in a different way, that there is this energy, there's this, there's different things, vibrational frequency, all this stuff. It was by Dr. David Hawkins. All his books are great, but there's one that's called Power versus Force. I read that, I don't know now, almost 17 years ago. And it was one of the things where he breaks down out of his 25, 30 years of research he put into this book. And he talks about how everything is broken down. So we look at things like, let's say, music, for an example. And there's other people who've came out with other studies now and other books that have done similar things in their own way, like with water, plant life. It's amazing how this stuff works. But it's understanding, because, they always say, who you surround yourself is who, the 5 closest people to you, average amount is you. And that's a law of association. And I agree with that to a certain degree. It does work in many, like if you're around people who are low vibrational, always talking negative and all this, yeah, it's going to influence you in some way, shape, or form, or you're just gonna have to work really hard or put a lot of energy into to maintain like a wall so you don't get pulled into that. But I take it one step further. It's the energy of the individuals and where they're vibrating at. That's more of the law of it. You can look up things, but I can go on and on. But David Hawkins' book, it just gets into all that stuff, but he'll talk about like different aspects of music, right? So classical has a very high vibrational frequency. He gets into religions. He talks about rap being a low vibrational frequency. And that's why with rap music or heavy metal or things like that, it associates to a certain experience of life. And so you don't think of somebody who's, and I'm not, this is just sharing stuff, but like, you don't think of someone who listens to a lot of classical music, probably crime related stuff or stuff along that nature. But rap music has a higher percentage of that. I'm not saying everyone, I mean, I like to listen to a little rap music here and there every once in a blue moon, but there's that component to it. But I'll take it even on a health level to kind of support that. If you're working out and you really want to get blood to your muscles so you can have a better workout, listen to rap or heavy metal. It literally opens up, it stresses the body. So what it'll do is then you're going to put more blood into the muscles, which allows you to work out a lot better. So, and again, that's a low vibrational kind of a thing that happens. So he maps it out in many ways. But the key thing you could take from the book, though, when you understand that is okay, what can I do for myself to raise my vibration? How can I break out of the mold for myself to live? And where am I at on this long list of, right, because he channeled things out like life supporting is 200 and so forth. So I can go on and on with the book, but it's one of the ones that really gave me a blueprint to life to understand things that, yeah, everything is energy. And from the energy frequency, this is the experience that we see on the physical plane. And if we change the energy, we change the physical experience. And you can change your life in every aspect by just doing that.
No, definitely going to have to check that one out. And just love the concept of it. Again, listeners, we're season 3, episode 35. Dr. Vic Manzo Jr. coming from Knoxville, Tennessee. Make sure you check out his website, empoweryourreality.com, and also his podcast, The Mindful Experiment. Hey, we're at the point where I think it's a good space to end with the last question. And it is a legacy question. And John Alston has this quote: the only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind. And you've been dancing around this the whole show, but I want to put it in context for you. You know, you're a young man now. I'm going to give you another 50, 60 years. You got that Italian genes, and so you're going to live a long life, hopefully. And you've served your purpose and you've left so much of yourself back. What is it specifically as you're on your deathbed, you're surrounded by those that love you, you're ready to take your last breath? What is it in your heart that you know deep down that you've left behind with people? And when you take that last breath, you can just be like, yes, you know, my life served its purpose, and I'm leaving here totally fulfilled.
I helped my kids discover who they really are, or kept it either way. If I can keep that, you know, my daughter has this beautiful spark in her, that beautiful light. And I'm like, if I can keep that for her, but I know life will eventually, the way the game works in life, but have her rediscover who she really is and know that she's this infinite being having a minute experiencing here. And she has the power to choose and create whatever she wants. And it really comes back to that fulfillment. So for my kids to know that I was able to help them in that process, I did my job. I can live at peace with that. Notice it's not how much money I made, or it's just that is because, again, our kids are our legacy. Because when I transition, part of me will continue on with them. And I want to make sure I leave as much as I possibly can.
Pashito, get us out. What an episode.
Wow. Man, a little speechless there, Dr. Vic. That was awesome. Your passion for your family really comes out. And I got to give a shout out to your wife also. She sounds awesome. The fact that you just decided I'm not doing this one day and she's good with it, that's unbelievable. So, man, thank you for being on the show. Say hello to your family for us. And thanks again. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any closing comments from you? Sorry, I interrupted you right there.
Oh, you're fine. Life, you can look at life in two ways. It's a hostile environment. It's a hostile world. It's something that's out to get you and X, Y, Z. Or you can see that there really is this loving and beautiful, whatever field or whatever you want to call it, that's always there to support whatever it is you want. And it's always bringing things to you to help you to get more clear on what matters most to you so you can find that path to fulfillment.
What a great way. No other words to follow that other than boom, baby. That just happened. We out.